Hello everybody and welcome to this, your week 2 wrap-up video for mental wellbeing for researchers. It's great to have you still with us. As promised, this week was a bit more of a closer look at the particular and peculiar experience of HDR students and early career researchers when it comes to, challenges to mental wellbeing. And we presented some research that talked about some of the particular behavioural and cognitive patterns that can prove challenging for early career researchers. Of course, these are not unique to this group, but they have been found to be particularly prevalent and very acute amongst HDR students and early career researchers. And we looked at some of the reasons for that, and perhaps you identified yourself in some of the ones that we listed. Certainly one of the topics we looked at was that idea of an imposter syndrome, and that is something that each time I run this course comes up right from the very beginning, from O week, when we're asking people about, the things that they might struggle with. People talk about that sense of worry that they're maybe not good enough or smart enough, or that somehow somebody's made a mistake to let them into an HDR program, and more than that they're worried they're going to get found out at some point. So whilst that's a very uncomfortable feeling, I'm hoping the fact that you can see that there is a lot of research on this, that these patterns of thinking have been found all around the world in early career researchers, helps you to know that you are not alone, that what you're experiencing is in fact quite normal and typical, even though it's uncomfortable. We also this week asked you to reflect on, why it is that you keep going. What is it that helps you to keep your eyes on the prize, particularly during those times that are a bit more challenging? And it was great to see in the discussion board this time that some of you were able to share the things that keep you excited and passionate about your projects, even when you, may lose heart at times, or it feels tricky, or the practicalities of getting it completed are a bit difficult. I hope that, asking you to reflect on that and then to write that down and share it with others was a helpful exercise in getting you to reconnect, with those reasons that you set out on this journey in the first place. And I recommend that you keep revisiting those ideas as you move, not just through this course, but as you move through academia and even beyond, just to kind of, help you connected to your reasons for doing this. This week we had 2 polls actually. The first one was asking you, out of a list of things, so it was a forced choice, to identify what you think are the potentially most stressful aspects of being an HDR student or an early career researcher. And we actually had an interesting mix between the more psychological aspect and the more kind of practical project-related aspects. So the most endorsed option, or most endorsed answer, I should say, was that of worrying about how to manage those feelings of doubt and lack of confidence. And of course, that links in, with the themes of this course, but also, as I said, with those kinds of worries that very typically come up amongst early career researchers. So you're not alone. Obviously, 38% of you chose that answer. But it was followed pretty closely behind, I should say 27% of you chose that one. But it was followed pretty closely behind by 2 more project-related, stresses. And that was one is the fear of how you're going to keep motivated to keep on task, because of course, particularly doing a high degree by research is a very self-driven sort of exercise. You might have a supervisory team, but to a large extent, it's up to you as the individual to kind of pace yourself through the process. And the other one that came up was, those natural worries, fears about, am I going to get this completed and on time? And of course, that's the cloud that follows you the whole time that you're doing a high degree by research. Where am I going to end up, and am I going to get it done and get where I needed to be by the time those final milestones need to be reached? So it's very understandable that those 3 options were the ones that came through. Then the flip side of that was we asked you to identify what you think will be, potentially the most beneficial aspect of doing a higher degree by research. And most of you identified the idea that it will contribute to your career, improve your career trajectory in some way. But then there were a sizable number of you also that talked about the sense of self-satisfaction that you will get. And those were a bit balanced, around 38 and 37% each for those. So, and we did ask you to do a forced choice. So it's understandable that those are the sorts of things that, came forward most strongly. I always find it quite interesting though, each time I do this course, that the, relational aspects to it in terms of building social networks and relationships does not come through as strongest by most. I can understand that because I said you have to pick one. But I would urge you to, I guess, keep thinking about that, maybe keep paying attention to relationships. In the coming weeks, I'll talk to you a little bit more about my own experiences in HDR land and early career researcher land. But just briefly, I've started 2 PhDs, but I completed only one of those. And in both of those cases, I think the thing that helped to keep me afloat from a mental wellbeing perspective were the relationships that I formed. And those relationships and networks continue to be important. They tend to be the people that I rely on for support, but more than that, for professional referral and consultation. So the people I might reach out to be part of a supervision team, or people I might reach out to mark my own students' theses, for example, or people that I might, form into a research support community as well. So those relationships have actually over time proven to be a really important benefit of me engaging in that HDR process. So I would encourage you to, I guess, pay attention to and look after those relationships as well. Okay, so next week we're going to broaden the lens a little bit, still talking about HDR and early career research experience, but we're going to look more particularly at the more environmental or systemic factors that are involved in protecting or threatening mental well-being. Sometimes it can feel like it's all down to you and it's a heavy burden to bear, and we want to, I guess, give you a broader appreciation that actually there are a lot of environmental or systemic factors that we know of through research as being very important to the experience of being an HDR student or early career researcher, and it's important to examine those and I guess to get an idea of which one of those you may have more influence over and which ones you may not have influence over as well, or less influence. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the material for this week, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Oh, very, very importantly, next week we have our live Zoom session where you get to come and meet me virtually, or at least online, I should say, not virtually. It will be me who's there, and I'm also going to have a colleague of mine, Catherine Kennan, who's very recently finished a PhD, who can give you some insights into her experience and what helped her to look after her mental wellbeing during that process. So it's a great opportunity to come along, ask me any questions about the course, but also about my own experiences. I think you'll find I'm a pretty open book in sharing what my own journey through that time was like, and also my experiences after that in terms of supervising other students. Okay, I really hope that some of you will come along to that session, but whether or not you're able to make it, a recording will be available, and I will catch up with you next week. Bye for now.